All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. And please do continue to share the names in the chat of the arts educators or teaching artists who have had an impact on your life. We love seeing that and hearing that. But welcome. So this is the information session for the Empire State Creates pilot grant project, which is being offered by us, the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable, and the New York State Council on the Arts, which throughout this event we will often refer to as NYSCA. My name is Kinsey Keck. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a white non-disabled person with shoulder-length brown hair. It's a little curly today. I'm wearing large metal framed glasses and a white frilly fluffy shirt. And I'm sitting in my bedroom, and behind me you can see my window with my few plants perched on a shelf there. So I am also the programming and membership manager for the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. And we'll talk a little bit more about who the Roundtable is and who NYSCA is shortly. But first, although we are currently meeting via an online platform, the Roundtable would like to acknowledge that we work and live on stolen land. The place that we call New York City exists on the traditional, ancestral, unceded land of the Canarsie, Lenape, Munsee, and Wappinger people. So we'd like to give a moment of respect to them, as well as to the Black and immigrant communities which have helped build the city that we know today. As we travel in their footsteps, we recognize that all of our pasts, presents, and futures are intertwined. Thank you. So before we get started, I'm just going to share a few quick reminders. First, if you're having any trouble with Zoom at all, you can send a private message to me or to our executive director, Kimberly Olson, who is also on the call today. Please do keep your mic setting on mute unless you are the person speaking. And you can use the chat box to ask questions and share links and resources and connect with everyone else on the call. I do want to note that closed captioning is available on this call. To activate that, all you have to do is press the button that says live transcript on the bottom toolbar of your screen and select show subtitles. You can also move that box around if you need to. And I also want to just make sure everyone is aware that this session is being recorded and will be made available after today on the Roundtable's website, YouTube, and Vimeo channels. So you'll be able to access this information again as needed. And I think that that's about it for introductions. So Kim, before we get started talking about the Roundtable and NYSCA, would you like to introduce yourself?
That sounds great. Hi, everybody. My name is Kimberly Olson, and I'm the Executive Director of the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. I'm so grateful to be in a room with teaching artists. I consider to be the unicorns, the amazing community movers and shakers across New York State that really are a pillar in our schools and communities. So grateful to be here with you all today. I'm going to do a visual description. I am a white woman wearing clear glasses. I have my hair pulled back into a ponytail. I'm wearing a t-shirt that says hello in maybe 10 different languages with colorful writing. And I'm currently sitting in my apartment with a TV behind me and a bunch of little knickknacks on my credenza, I guess, over there. Wonderful. So throughout this, we're going to be doing a presentation. We're also going to be emailing a link to this to all of our registrants afterwards. We encourage you to put any questions that you may have in the chat as we go along. We're going to have 2 breaks for questions during the presentation, one at the middle part and then one at the end. We've also are so appreciative of everybody that put questions in their registration form as well. We're going to do our best to address all of those here too. So without further ado, let's get going. Kinsey, could you bring up the PowerPoint?
Sure thing. Also, as you can hear, 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. is about the time that my dogs get really riled up. So you might hear them chatting in the background, but it'll be all good. Alrighty, so here we go. Here we are, Empire State Creates information session. Thank you all for joining us. First, we're just going to introduce quickly, actually, first I'm gonna shut my door. Just give me 1 second.
Sure. Kinsey, as you do that, I'll just share. So the Roundtable, our mission is that we are a community of teaching artists, educators, administrators, cultural workers, all working together to improve and advance the state of arts ed here in New York City and New York State. Kinsey, what do we do in order to achieve that? How do we do it?
We do a lot of things. So we are a member-based organization, but you certainly don't have to be a member of the Roundtable as an individual or an organization to benefit from the work that we do. So we do that in a lot of ways. We are currently at the tail end of hosting our annual flagship event that is called Face to Face. It's an annual arts and education conference. This is our second year in a row of doing that virtually. So I do encourage you all, if you haven't attended and you are interested in attending, tomorrow is the last day of Face to Face. This year's conference is themed, but the theme is resilience and reinvention. And we're doing our conference closing tomorrow. So there's one session in the morning, there is a dine around with our board in the afternoon, and then we'll be doing our conference closing event tomorrow at 4 p.m. So if you're interested in learning more about that or in accessing any of the recordings of previous sessions, I believe Kim can paste a link in the chat. Thanks, Kim, to learn some more information about that. We also offer other professional development opportunities throughout the year. We offer meetups for different groups in our community. We have an early career professionals meetup, mid-career professionals meetup, emerging leaders, quite a few different meetup groups. So we've been hosting those virtually as well, but we hope to have some of those in person soon. We also do a lot of advocacy work on behalf of the field. Let's see.
What else? That sounds pretty good. It's a
great
good snapshot of us.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And so as Kinsey mentioned earlier, we're so grateful for the generous support of the New York State Council on the Arts, NYSCA, who is our program partner in this new pilot project, Empire State Creates. And it's really because of their support that this seed of an idea that we had at the beginning of the year has now become a reality. And so with that, let's go to the next slide, Kinsey. And so what is Empire State Creates? So this is a new program that's going to allow us to offer smaller micro grants of $1,500, so $1,500 to 15 teaching artists across New York State, with the goal of having them create 4 to 5 asynchronous resources. And now these resources can be used for distribution in a multitude of community settings. Could you go to the next slide? Let's see, and so including, but not limited to, students, veterans, working with seniors or older adults, working with people experiencing incarceration or re-entry, people with disabilities, people from the LGBTQ community, people experiencing homelessness, multilingual learners, as well as educators. Now, I should say these aren't the only populations that if you have somebody in mind or a population in mind that you're really interested in creating resources for, this is the moment. Teaching artists are so creative and come up with so many different ways of interacting with the community that while we list these here, we really trust your imagination as well. Let's see, and let's go to the next slide. So I'm gonna, or Kinsey rather, is gonna unpack in a little bit what asynchronous means. I know there are a few questions around that, but really there are 2 main goals for the Empire State Creates program. The first is to share asynchronous materials, so materials that are not live taught, as I am live with you all now, so not live. So to share these asynchronous materials across artistic disciplines that New Yorkers of all ages can use to engage in meaningful arts opportunities. When we say artistic disciplines, that we recognize that that is a huge umbrella, and that not only is dance, theater, music, visual arts and media, but also could be circus arts, could be textile and fashion arts learning. So if you have a question around whether something fits into arts learning, either drop it in the chat, or we're also going to be sharing our emails at the end. So that's really our first goal, is around these materials, but our second goal is also to help New York teaching artists not only bolster their professional portfolio, but gain added visibility as well. That's something that's really important to us at the Roundtable, is that we highlight the work of teaching artists and why they are so important in educational settings, and the great opportunities that they could bring to New Yorkers of all ages, and wanting to really bring more visibility to what a teaching artist is and what they do. So we just see this as another avenue to do that, in addition to then giving you some tools that you can use for your toolkit down the line as well, hopefully. Great. I think you're muted.
Thank you. So first, let's chat a little bit about eligibility for this project. So if folks who are eligible for this project include folks who are independent teaching artists or teaching artist assistants. That's defined as working with students in New York State public, private, and charter schools, colleges, universities, and or New York State community groups, such as senior centers, libraries, religious institutions, prisons, veteran centers, or the like. So that's not an exhaustive list, but it gives you a pretty good idea. You must also be 18 years of age or older at the time of applying for this project. And you must also be a current resident of New York State. Now, we have had a couple of questions about that. If you are not a resident of New York State, even if you work in New York, unfortunately, you are not eligible. So we'll move over to the other side there. Other things to note that would make you not eligible to apply. Organizations. So you must apply as an individual, not on behalf of an organization. Like we just said, non-New York State residents, unfortunately, are not eligible to apply. If you are currently employed as a certified teacher by a New York State school, so that means teachers who are on permanent staff of New York State public schools. I know that we did have a question about from someone who is a substitute, sort of like a permanent substitute at the moment. And I think Kim and I are not 100% clear on that, but the clarification that we have received from NYSCA was that they expressly underlined being a certified teacher by a New York State school. So I think that we're thinking that's a yes, but if that is your question, I do highly encourage you to reach out to Kim or myself. We'll share our contact information after this so we can get some clarification from NYSCA on that question. Yes, thanks, Kim. And you also, if you are a current staff member or board member of the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable, unfortunately, you are not eligible to apply either. Okay, so if you have questions about that, we are going to take a break in a moment to ask some questions, but feel free also to put them in the chat and we can answer them as we go. This is, I know, a big question for a lot of folks. What is asynchronous? What do we mean when we say that? So this is defined as online learning that participants can access at any time and does not include a live video component. So for right now, for example, this is a synchronous event. You are present, we are live, and we are sharing this information with you. So it can be video based. We're going to say no more than 15 minutes. We'll get to more parameters in just a second. So it can be video based, but that must be a video that is recorded that folks can access later on. And it doesn't have to be video based. It can be non-video based. So here's a little bit more specifics about asynchronous resource requirements. And this is directly taken from our website for this project. So you'll have access to this recording and all of these materials, but you can also read this again right on the website for the application. So each applicant will be asked to propose 4 to 5 asynchronous arts education resources or mini lessons. And each of those must first be asynchronous. So that can be video based, and that will be a 5 to 15 minute arts education mini lesson with an accompanying 1-page lesson plan. And thanks for adding this on here, Kim. So we will provide video editing for all of these resources. So that's not a thing that you'll need to worry about if you are recording these resources. If you choose not to go video based, that's still an option. So the requirement for that is just a non-video digital resource that can be embedded or uploaded to a website. So that's the important bit there, embedded or uploaded to a website. As Kim mentioned earlier, they must also be rooted in an arts discipline. There are plenty of examples here, and Kim gave so many as well: dance, theater, music, visual art, writing, media arts, multidisciplinary. And like Kim said, if you have a question about if a different discipline fits into that, please drop it in the chat or send us an email. And then also very important, these asynchronous resources or mini lessons must each be connected to at least one New York State Arts Learning Standard. So there is a link in this PowerPoint which you'll receive to look at those, and we're going to dive into them as well in a moment. And it's also important to note, because I think this was one of the questions that we received, if all resources or mini lessons must be to work together and go in order. So we just want to note that the resources can build off of each other, or they can be independent activities within the same topic. Oh, Kim, I'm sorry, you're on mute now.
Thanks, Kinsey. I just pasted a link in the chat that's around Arts Learning Standards. We're going to go over those in just a minute, but it has listed the 5 standards documents. And yeah, well, I'll pause right there because I know there's some more to talk about there. So what are we looking for? Also, keep the questions coming in the chat because we're going to answer some of these in a couple minutes. What are we looking for? So within these resources, the roundtable and our 8 panelists that are going to be reviewing these applications are looking to see that these resources center culturally responsive sustaining pedagogy, social emotional learning, and also are connected with the New York State Arts Learning Standards, if that's applicable. We recognize that that your learning resources might be for veterans or might be for seniors. And that doesn't exactly then make sense with our arts learning standards, which are intended for pre-K through grade 12. So we say if applicable, because we recognize that for populations that are not in a pre-K through 12 setting, that's not the intended audience, and that will not be applicable. So let's go to the next slide. We'll unpack what these each mean. So culturally responsive sustaining pedagogy is something that the roundtable values, and it is something that's been a tenet of education that's been has been circulating over the past several years. And essentially, it's a way of seeing diversity as a source of knowledge, as the slide says, and it recognizes the importance of including students' cultural references in all aspects of learning. So not only let's see, it gives a student-centered or participant-centered learning space that honors all of the cultural identities in the room and promotes also social emotional well-being in the room. And so we're asking that as folks are beginning to dream up their resources and create those for those that are selected, that this lens is applied to the work. And you'll see within the application, there is a question around culturally responsive sustaining pedagogy. We've also offered some resources in this PowerPoint that help break down more what culturally responsive sustaining pedagogy is. We've also included the third resource you'll see actually comes from the roundtable. We hosted a day of learning professional development around this in February 2020. And so there are some really great worksheets and webinars if you're just interested in learning more. So that's piece number 1. Let's go to the next slide. Piece number 2, we also think it's important that we center social emotional learning during this time. And I'm sure it's a phrase that many have heard. It's been a really big buzzword in the education world. Especially we know that given the pandemic and the racial injustices that exist in our world, many students and adults are all living through a moment of trauma. And so arts inherently teach towards social emotional competencies, such as building relationships, figuring out how to manage emotions. And we just ask that you also have this lens on as well when thinking about resources. And there's more information here. It's that social emotional learning is the process by which young people and adults acquire and apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes towards applying healthy identities. They manage their emotions and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others. Like I said earlier, establish supportive relationships and make responsible and caring decisions. We've also included 2 links here as well for folks wanting to learn more about social emotional learning. Let's see, and then the third piece of this is the New York State Arts Learning Standards. Let's see, Kinsey, could you click on that link for me? Perfect. So if you are interested in creating resources geared towards that pre-K through 12th grade audience, we ask that you include one of these arts learning standards. And so the way that you'll find these is you'll go to this page. If you see at a glance, that then gives you a drop down of each of the 5 disciplines that's recognized within New York State. Now we recognize that some folks may say submit a circus related resources or sound painting related resources, which aren't necessarily one of those. What we would suggest in those cases is try to find something that might be a match within one of those arts disciplines. And the folks that will be reviewing your applications are all teaching artists themselves, representing a wide variety of artistic disciplines. Yeah, let's click on one of these standards too, just to take a look of what it looks like. We just ask that there at least be one standard connected to the project. And the way you would find out that standard is, let's see. Great. Can folks see this, or would you like it to be zoomed in a bit more? Oh yeah, Robin, you will definitely get the links to this. Zoomed in, please. Perfect. Yeah, keep zooming, Kinsey. My eyes need the zooming. Perfect. Wonderful. So right now we're in theater, and of course, Sarah. And essentially, it's just sort of, I think it's a great tool for teaching artists to sort of understand about some of the arts disciplines, or not arts disciplines, excuse me, arts learning standards. These have actually were rolled out, I believe, starting in 2019, and they're going to be finished rolling out in New York State by next year. So if you're interested, like as you're going through and figuring out which standard you might be interested in exploring, all you would then do is just copy that piece. So say, Kinsey, I wanted to do that top left-hand corner one. I would just copy that pre-K 3, that title, and then copy that piece. It might be that you end up having to type it out based on what your computer settings are. But that's really what we're looking for. Oftentimes what I've heard a question is, well, do I start with a standard or do I start from my idea? And I'd say that's up to you. I think different educators work in different ways. Some may have the goal of what they want to do and figure out how it might be in communication with the standards, or they might say, ooh, let me take a look and see what's popping for me in the moment and start to build resources off of that. Yeah, again, I'll say this is only for resources intended for that pre-K through 12th grade audience. If you choose to do another community, then that you'll see in the application that we just asked that you write not applicable or the like. Although we'll be able to gather it from your application as well, of course. Different, yes, very important. So different than the blueprint. For those of you that might be familiar with the New York City blueprint, I think it's Blueprint in the Arts, that is just unique to New York City. And we're trying to coordinate this with the launch of the New York State Arts Learning Standards, and also just recognizing that we have applicants from all over the state that will be applying. So different from the blueprint, that's right. Great, let's go to that next slide. Perfect. So I did see a few questions come through the chat. Let's see. So we'll address, I think there were a couple that came in here, and then we'll ask if anybody wants to come off mute or add more. We'll also have time at the end too. We're going to take maybe like 3 or 4 questions right now. Let's see. So Kinsey, what was the first one that you saw come through?
Let's see, there's the first one I saw come through is from Emily. I have a unit plan I've made that can be asynchronous. It has 4+ lessons in it. Each lesson can be taught in less than 20 minutes, plus has independent activities. Is that okay to submit?
Yes, that is something that could be proposed. I would just say that as we go through the application though, look to see what we are asking for. We're not asking you to send the full unit plan, that it's really to answer the question that we're asking. And we'll go through what we're looking at in terms of that project narrative a little later. But yes, it can be something that you have a seed of an idea or a curriculum that you're teasing out or have worked with, and are interested in proposing it in this platform as well.
I think that brings me I'm just thinking about a question that we received in the before today that someone submitted, and their question was, when I'm doing this application, am I submitting the full materials already that I've created, or am I just applying to create them for you and I'm submitting sort of a proposal?
Yeah, I think it is the proposal for it. So we recognize that folks might be in different stages. It might be that you are still, this is really the seed of an idea and you have a rough outline, but haven't really begun to flesh it out. It also may be that this is something you've been thinking or working on for a while and would like some support, and could see this as being a great platform for sharing those resources with communities. So it could be either one. I also see in Carrie's question, can you clarify 4 to 5 videos in the same topic? So if we wanted to do some acting and puppetry, that wouldn't work. I'd love some more clarification. I would say we're looking for something that has an overarching theme. So it might be that under that theme, you have maybe different, it might be multidisciplinary in that you are bringing in different arts disciplines. But we're looking for an overarching theme for there to be some sort of connection so that it's not like one resource is looking at I'm making this up, but like jazz with older adults. Another is thinking about fashion and textile design with veterans, that there's something that connects all of them. That being said, they don't have to build off one another. It doesn't have to be in order to watch resource number 4 or engage in resource number 4, you have to have done all the others. They could be standalone pieces, but we just ask that they're all under a general umbrella of the same theme.
I think we have and one more question we can answer quickly from Louise. Who is the intended audience for the resources? That's really up to you. So we sort of discussed a little bit at the top who that might be. So you can choose who your audience is. So it could be students from 3K to 12th grade. It could be, as Kim said, like veterans. It could be creative aging. So for seniors and older adults, people who are experiencing incarceration or reentry, people with disabilities, people from the LGBTQ plus community, folks experiencing homelessness. And that list, there is a list on the materials that you'll get of possible audiences for your resources. But as Kim said at the beginning, that list is not exhaustive. So it's really up to you to dream that up.
Yeah, I understand. But so like you're using the word resources. So it means that it's lessons and other places they can learn more about the topic, because it's not all lessons, it's also resources. So that kind of, so it's not just administrative teachers, it's for actually the students themselves.
Yeah, exactly. While you may choose your target audience to be for educators, we're thinking like This is something that a student or a family might look at home. It's something that a veteran might engage with. So somebody that might not have the teaching ability, but just something for folks to engage with.
So it could be a class and then it's something to link up to learn more about that topic.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Well, I do see we have quite a few more questions in the chat, but I wonder if maybe we should move on to the little bit of information that we have left to share with you, and then so that we can spend the rest of our time together answering these questions. And I also just want to reiterate that if you have a question that you put in the chat or that you share at the end that doesn't get answered, we will be available via email. Kim and I will also save this chat and save all the questions. And depending on how many unanswered ones there are, we might put together a quick Google Doc that has the answers to your questions. So if you don't hear them in this hour while we're together today, do not fret. We will have answers for you as soon as we can. So I'm going to move on with our presentation for now, and we will come back to these questions once we're finished, okay?
Let me go here. Creates. Great. So all Empire State Creates applications will only be accepted via submittable. If there is an issue with using the submittable platform, please reach out to us. We'll be sending along our email addresses, or if you prefer to submit it via mail, that is also another acceptable avenue. However, all digital submissions we ask go through submittable. In order to access that, you just click the Apply Now. You will be prompted to create an account with Submittable. And essentially, you'll be brought to this, which is our Roundtable landing page. You'll then go to, let's see, yeah, I can do this. Oops. Sorry. Great. When I click Submit, I'll then be brought to the actual application. We do ask that it is just one application per person. So if you have multiple ideas, we just ask that you select one of them, just out of fairness in the application process. Let's see. So you'll then be brought to the first page of our application. Let's see. Wonderful. I'm just wondering if I already started this. I might not have. Oh, great, I didn't. So essentially, it's broken up into a few sections where it asks for your contact information, email and phone, your address. Again, you have to be a New York State resident to apply for this project, just per funding guidelines of our partner NYSCA. And you'll see here that the Roundtable accepts any of these documents as proof of address. And we have that in our PowerPoint as well. So valid driver's license, property tax receipt, posted mail with your name, utility bill, lease agreement, insurance card, voter registration card, or college enrollment papers. If you have a proof of address and you're not sure if this works, always send us an email. We'll also be looking at all of these as well. And if we notice maybe something is not quite right, we will also reach out and try to find another proof of residency that works. We'll also ask that you include your age, race and ethnicity, gender, information if you identify as having a disability or impairment, just for the Roundtable's records to see who's applying to the program. There's also an option for all of these as well, that if you prefer not to answer, please feel free to select that too. That is by no means there's any sort of criteria around each of these. It's again, just so that we can get a better sense of who's interested in applying and participating in the project. Great. So then our section 2 talks about teaching artist information. So asking what county you reside in, which best describes your arts discipline, knowing that I know I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so that's why that's there as well. If other is what, if you don't see quite what you identify as there, please select that and you'll be able to specify. There's also questions about how long you're working in the field, the populations that you have knowledge and experience working in. And then here you'll then also be asked to upload some additional materials as well, to include a bio. Please note that your name, bio, and a brief summary of the project proposal will be published on both the Roundtable and NYSCA websites. So ideally, this will be, if you're selected, the bio that will be included. Of course, we will always run it by applicants before posting anything, of course. And then we also ask that you upload 1 to 3 examples demonstrating your experience or training or professional development in the arts and arts education. This could be a resume, a CV, an artist bio, certificates of completion for different courses or professional developments in the arts or arts ed, letters of support, and or a sample portfolio. And you'll see we have many different file types that we're also accepting there as well. If you're not quite sure if something, if it's the right, if something qualifies as an example, please feel free to put it in the chat, private message us, or email us. Again, if you have a website, please feel free to put that there as well. Great. And then here's a question on how do you center just cultural responsiveness, equity, inclusion in your work? As we start to dig into criteria, you'll see that that is of interest and is considered within by the panel reviewing the applications. So just talking a little bit about how this applies to your work, or how do you see it within the context of your teaching artist practice. So once we have that contact information about you, more information about you as a teaching artist, we then go into project information, which is where you're able to tell us more about the project you're proposing. So giving it a title, giving a 1 to 2 sentence description of your proposed project, sharing resources where applicable, and also then sharing whether your materials are going to be video-based, non-video based, or a combination, or other. So it might be that you're thinking, oh, I want to create 2 5-minute videos and maybe have 2 PDFs or two other types of documents to go along with it. This just gives us a sense of what folks are interested in as we're looking through the application. Great. And then from there, really the meat of the application and really where you share what you're thinking about is our project narrative. And here we ask that you give a detailed description of each of the proposed mini lessons or resources. And in this description, we ask that you articulate the intended audience, the learning objective, what's the goal of this resource, this mini lesson, this activity, what's the goal of it or the big idea? What's the resource type of it, video or non-video? And then just to summarize how your mini lessons embody or aligned with going back to culturally responsive, sustaining pedagogy and social emotional learning. Great, there is no character count on that. It's up to you to share as much or as little as you would like. However, please look at each of the areas that we've asked for and do your best to address each part in your response. Let's see. If there are any materials that you're thinking that you might need for this project. And then also just a checking if you understand the deadlines associated with this project, which are also on the website and which we'll go over in just a moment. And then so that's the application. While it will automatically save in your submittable, so I'm in my personal submittable account right now, where I can see everything that I've submitted to in the past. And then I'm also able to see my saved drafts. So I'm able to see what I've started. I see I've started my Empire State Creates. And you'll see at the bottom too, oops, there was a save draft feature. So if I don't want to lose any of my work, just making sure that I click that as well. If you want to, I know my brain, sometimes I like to use a Google Doc or pre-plan my answers in advance. We do have that available on our website. You just find that. Let's see. Yeah, so on our website, you can view the application questions. That will then bring you to a Google Doc version of this. We just ask that this document will not be editable to you. So you'll just have to either download it as a Word doc or make a copy of it as well, which you could do by going File and then make a copy. You will not be able to directly put your answers on here. We also ask that, this is not an acceptable application as well. So we won't accept this if you fill out your responses here and then email it to us. Great, I think that's it in terms of the application.
So Kim did touch on this, but we're just going to go over it really quickly one more time. The application materials. So this includes the submittable application form, which we just went over. You'll need to submit that, which includes the project narrative. As Kim said, you can submit via mail as well, but email submissions of a Google Doc or something similar will not be accepted. So if you would like to do a digital application, it must be via the submittable portal. You'll also want your teaching artist bio, which Kim, there was a question in the chat just now about character count on that.
And which part, teaching artist bio?
Uh-huh.
Yes, we have a character count there of up to 250 characters. 250. Oh, thank you. Great. We will make that edit. Thanks, Hunter.
Great. And then you'll include the 1 to 3 examples demonstrating your experience, training, and or professional development in the arts and arts education, and then proof of your current New York State residency. So here are some examples of what you can submit for your arts and arts education experience. Those 1 to 3 examples that you submit may include, but are certainly not limited to these items. So it could be, as Kim said, your resume or CV, your artist biography, certificates of completion for any programs that you've completed, letters of support, and a sample portfolio that can include links to other work that you've done. For proof of New York State residency, we will accept any of these documents as proof of address. So that's your valid driver's license, a property tax receipt, posted mail with your name on it or the name of the applicant on it, a utility bill or lease agreement, insurance card, your voter ID card, college enrollment papers. And as Kim said, if you have something else that you think might prove your residency, please just send us an email to clarify and we will get back to you on that. And we're just going to quickly go over the application dates and deadlines. So the application is already open. It opened on Monday, April 19th at noon Eastern time. And then there's the information session, which you are experiencing right now live, but you will have access to this recording as we shared. The application closes on Friday, May 21st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. And at that point, our team of teaching artists will review all of the applications, and you will be notified by Monday, June 12th, 2021. After that, there will be a professional development for the folks who have been selected for this project. That date and time is still TBD, but we will let you all know. And then the funds will be dispersed sometime between June 16th and June 30th of 2021. The materials, the asynchronous materials that you will be creating will be due to us by Friday, July 30th of 2021. And then we will publish those materials online by Friday, August 20th, 2021. I know there was a question earlier in the chat about how to get these materials out. Is it the onus of you to get your materials out somewhere? And the answer is no, that is the Roundtable's responsibility. So when they are submitted to us, we will have them on our website, the NYSCO website. And I think that's it, but Kim, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And then the final report for the project will be due Friday, October 1st of 2021. And I just want to note that the grant recipients will be awarded their funding by June 30th. That's pending your contract signature and submission of a complete W-9 form and any relevant banking information to get that payment out to you. All righty.
So in terms of just if you are selected to receive this grant, the funds for this will all be paid upfront, pending just your signature on the contract and the submission of a completed W-9 form and relevant banking information, all of which we will collect also via Submittable, which is a secure platform, which we've used for many other grant programs as well. And has been vetted for the proper security. All payments will be given out via ACH, so that will be a direct deposit to your account based on the information that you provide to us. Please note that this is considered as taxable income, and this will be given out then on a 1099. So if selected, you will be getting a 1099 from the Roundtable in 2022. So just something to keep in mind with the project. And we got a few questions on what could this be applied for? What could this funding be put towards? And really it's anything that helps you support in completing these resources or mini lessons. So that could be purchasing new materials for yourself, buying a new laptop, getting arts materials, or getting ring lights. It also can go to your hours as well. And I should say this $1,500 number was selected just based on the Roundtable doing research with many different cultural organizations around the city to figure out price points around creating these asynchronous resources. So it's really where you see this fitting best for you to be able to complete this project. Let's see, could you go to the next slide? So we've talked we've touched on the review process. So this application, each application will be reviewed by at least 2 members of a panel. This panel will consist of teaching artists that are New York State based, working in all arts disciplines. And they will review applications using the following criteria, which are also all listed on our website as well. So looking at demonstrated evidence of experience, training, or professional development in arts ed. So have you worked in the field? Do you have experience or knowledge in this area, in this field? Looking at the scope and sequence of the project demonstrated by the project narratives, the learning objectives that you identify, and also then alignment with our what we said earlier in terms of culturally responsive pedagogy and also social emotional learning. Looking at connection to arts learning standards, if that's applicable, and then also looking into project feasibility, taking into consideration the timeline, what the budget is. So by no means do we expect anybody to do any sort of 4 full-scale musicals for something like this, that really take into consideration that it is a micro grant. It's a smaller amount of money. We're looking for bite-sized resources. So when it comes to a video, think 5 to 15 minute arts activity, arts mini lesson. When it comes to those non-video resources, it doesn't have to be an extensive toolkit, or as long as it's we wanted to make sure that it's either not overextending or underextending, I guess. That fits right with the project, the grant project award. I should say the applications too will not be anonymous. to the review panel and that folks will be recusing themselves if they do know the applicant. As I said earlier, it will be reviewed by multiple folks, at least 2, likely 3 panelists, plus the roundtable staff as well. And I should say all of these criteria were also not listed in any order. Great, and Kinsey, can you talk about copyright and publishing?
Absolutely. Louise actually just asked this question, which is great. So hopefully we can answer it here. So as far as copyright and publishing of these resources that you submit, you as the artist will maintain sole copyright of the created materials, and you may use those and reproduce the project materials as you desire. So if awarded, each teaching artist's name, biography, image, and a brief summary of the project will be published along with the resources and mini lessons on the Roundtable's website and on NYSCA websites. So those are the only places that we are posting them, but you are free also to do with these materials what you like. So links will be shared with all of these different folks here. So the DOE, Office of Arts and Special Projects, our community partners. The links to these resources will be shared with them, but again, you will own them. You may do with them what you like. And we will also send artists who submit video content. We will send you the final video edited copies of your materials, so you have access to those as well. And I know there was another question in the chat about us providing video editing for your resources, and what does that mean that you need to provide on your end? I think what we say when we mean we're providing video editing for you is like we will trim it. We will trim out the things that don't need to be there. So if you do one long one, a long video, and maybe a little part needs to be cut out, you can let us know. We can trim things. And I think we might add in like a slide or 2 of information, but you still will want to introduce your projects and the like. So if that doesn't answer your question, let me know and we can talk about it a little bit more. And I think that brings us to the end of our presentation.
Great. I'm seeing so many great questions in the chat, and I know we only have about 5 minutes. So if we don't get to your question, please know we are going to make a Google Doc where we will answer all of them as well. And of course, put our emails and if to be able to follow up. A question that I saw in a few different ways is around if you're basing your activity on a piece of literature and artwork, will you need rights or permissions for those texts? It's something that we're going to inquire about further and get back to you in the follow-up email, just to make sure. Let's see. In terms of where, let's see. Okay. Are the materials published online anywhere else? So they will be published on the Roundtable and NYSCA websites. We also then will share the link of that with the New York State Education Department. We'll also share it with the New York City Department of Education as well. And we'll also share it with community partners, but those will be the 2 main places those will be the only 2 places that we are actually posting these materials. That being said, if you would like to post the materials on your website too, or share them out in any capacity, you are also welcome to do that. And something that you could use in other professional settings as well. By no means do you have to contact us for permission. You own these resources. Let's see.
And one question I see from Michael is, for the application, for those 1 to 3 materials that you submit for experience, is it possible to upload videos for examples of your arts experience?
Michael, I loved that question, saw that, and you can upload video. And it's now video, audio, PDFs, there's now like 40 different file types you can upload, however you wish to show your professional experience training in arts or arts education. Great question. Let's see, Roy said, I'm vague on how these classes will be accessed or promoted to the specific student populations. Oh, great. I think we just sort of answered that. that we'll be sharing these out with different school partners. We know here in New York City that the Office of Arts and Special Projects will be working with the individual borough arts directors to help on getting these resources to students and families. But of course, folks are always welcome to share as well with folks in their network. I see do we submit a video via a memory card or a file sent to you online? Let's see, Kathy, do you mean in the application or if selected for the project?
I meant if selected for the project.
I think that's something we could figure out either way. We're pretty flexible. I bet file is probably preferred by us, but again, we're definitely willing to accommodate however it feels best to get that to us.
Thank you.
Great. And then Susan, I saw your hand go up. We'll take maybe 2 more questions and then we'll close out and get back to you on these that we haven't answered. So Susan Rowe Harrison, if you want to come off mute, please feel free. Okay, I might have lost Susan, but that's okay. I see a few in the chat. Nellie, what if our audiences are not on your radar? Then we share them out. Is that correct? Yes, I think we're always looking for new audiences to share things with. If there are audiences that you think we should be tapping into or sharing with, please let us know. We want to gain exposure for you as teaching artists. We want to share these resources with communities who might be interested in them. And also, please feel that you have ownership over them as well, that if there's a group that you're working with that you think, hey, this might be really great, that's also something that you could do too. Kinsey, I think we have time for 1 more question, then we'll close out. Is there one that you saw in the chat?
Yes, Lawrence asks, as a TA working with seniors, I do not have to be affiliated with a senior center, correct?
Yep, that's 100% correct. In fact, that's what we want. It's just you as an individual teaching artist, and it might you as an individual teaching artist. And the intended resources that you're creating are for seniors. Yeah, this project is definitely not for an organization. We really want to focus on you as the individual teaching artist. Wonderful. So I recognize that it's 6:01, and I so appreciate all of you being here today on this lovely Wednesday afternoon with this beautiful weather. If you have more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, although we won't answer them verbally here now. We will be saving them, taking a look, and we'll be getting back to you. Kinsey, what do you say? Probably by Monday or so?
Yeah, maybe Tuesday since we're finishing the conference, but I think, yeah, Tuesday at the latest.
Wonderful. So please use this space to answer questions. I hope this was helpful. This is new for us. If there's any feedback or more questions, please let us know. Really, we are here to serve you as teaching artists however we can, and are just so grateful for all of you and the work that you do. So we'll stay on for another minute or so if folks want to put any more questions in the chat, and then we will call it a night.
I also just shared again our email addresses and a link to the website in the chat, just in case anyone wants to copy those before we head out. Thank you all so much.